Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Hope everybody is doing well out there. Happy Tuesday. Boy, it's election night here. But, boy, do we have a lot to get to and some breaking news. Of course, the Hunter Biden trial, the verdict. We have some phenomenal guests lined up today, including somebody that I admire very much from Midas Touch, Ron Filipkowski, is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes to get his reaction to the Hunter Biden verdict. Also, the other side, even though, yes, Filipkowski is a former Republican, we have a very staunch Republican and Donald Trump supporter. David Pollock from the David Pollock Show will be joining us coming up at the bottom of the hour to get his reaction as well. So we kind of get both sides of it, and we'll be talking about that. We have some people that are running for office that are going to be coming in studio in hour number 2, but I want to get right to it. And by the way, thank you all for joining us. You could be listening on the FM AM dial. You could be watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We're everywhere, and I appreciate you being a part of the show. The videos that I posted from the Trump rally in Vegas the other day, to say they've gone viral would be an understatement. Millions and millions of views because of that. I've had some people on the far right that have thrown tropes at me, gay slurs, the homophobia, racist remarks. I was even called the N-word yesterday. Very just demented people and mentally ill people. It's a little strange, but I guess I'm not surprised, and it just makes me stronger to keep doing what I do here. But that is what it is. And I appreciate all of you that like what I do, that watch the show, that comment. You know, it's certainly an honor to do it every day, and I'm very also appreciative of the fact that I think I've gained like close to 10,000 followers on Twitter just in the last 2 days. I want to give the breaking news, which is obviously a federal grand jury that found Hunter Biden guilty on all 3 federal felony gun charges he faced, concluding that he violated laws meant to prevent drug addicts from owning firearms. One thing you didn't hear about today, or you didn't hear, was Hunter Biden or Joe Biden attacking the judge, attacking members of the judge's family, attacking the jury. No, you didn't hear any of that stuff. You didn't hear them attacking the DOJ, the two-tier justice system, as Trumpers like to call it. And even Joe Biden put out a statement, which I'm going to read here in a few moments. But before I do that, juror number 10 said that he felt sad about how Hunter Biden's life had turned out, even though it wasn't discussed in detail. He said it was very sad, not that he was being convicted of these crimes, but that his life had turned out the way that it did. Juror 10 also said that Biden's family was not at all discussed during deliberations. He said, "We didn't use Jill. We didn't use President Biden. The president's name was only brought up once during the trial." And that's the way it should be done. Juror 10 also said, "I really don't think that Hunter belongs in jail." Now, do I think that Hunter Biden is going to go to jail? Probably not. My same opinions on Donald Trump. Now, whether I think somebody deserves to go to jail or not is a completely different question. I don't think Hunter Biden's going to go to jail. If he does get jail time, it'll be very limited amount of time. Same thing with Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump's going to be going to jail either. Joe Biden's a good father. He's a loving father. And he said, "As I've said last week, I am the president, but I'm also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we're proud of the man he is today. So many families who have loved one's battle addiction understand the feeling of pride seeing someone you love come out the other side and be so strong and resilient in recovery. As I also said last week, I accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Jill and I will always be there for Hunter and the rest of our family with our love and support. Nothing will ever change that." If you notice, Joe Biden's not going after the jurors. Like I said, he's not going after the judge. He's not going after our justice system. He's handling it with class, the way that, Joe Biden handles most things, with class. As far as Hunter Biden's statement, he said, "I'm more grateful today for the love and support I experienced this last week from Melissa, my family, my friends, and my community than I am disappointed by the outcome. Recovery is possible by the grace of God, and I am blessed to experience that gift one day at a time. I know a thing or two about addiction because I lost my sister at the age of 37 to a drug overdose. So in that aspect, I do feel some sorrow for Hunter Biden. And I got to tell you, as I talk about these topics all the time, we don't do enough in this country to help those that are suffering from addiction. It could be gambling or drugs, alcohol, and we need to do more. And the attacks on the right going after Hunter Biden because he was addicted to drugs are despicable. I, for one, will tell you, as I said in the Donald Trump case, and I say in this case, I respect the outcome that the jury decided upon, which is guilty. As Joe Biden respects it, and I haven't heard, and you could make the argument that if Hunter Biden wasn't Joe Biden's son, then maybe he doesn't get convicted on these charges. One could make that argument, but that doesn't mean I don't not respect the outcome in the courthouse today, because I do. And if, in fact, the Republican judge, which I am not going to attack because he's a Republican, decides to put Hunter Biden in jail for a period of time, I will respect that decision as well. The problem that I have is it seems like the only gun that so many on the far right seem to care about, at least in the last several months, is an unloaded gun that Hunter Biden had for 2 weeks when he was on drugs. Why don't they care about all the other guns in society? That would be my question. But Hunter wasn't crying or having a meltdown after the guilty verdict today. Nobody was screaming or threatening the prosecutor. And as far as I can tell, nobody's been calling the trial rigged. And as I mentioned earlier, Hunter Biden has been struggling to get and stay clean for years. He suffered. And it's a story that millions of American families understand no more than my family, with what took place with my sister, who I miss very much. Hunter Biden's going to pay the price. He was already found guilty. And, Trump's been found guilty. He's shown zero remorse, zero regret. And he's never going to become a better person. We all know that. But if you're on the far right today and you're cheering for the Hunter Biden conviction while denouncing Donald Trump's conviction, that's called hypocrisy. And as Ron Filipkowski, who's going to be joining us here in just a few moments, eloquently pointed out, the people on the far right were chanting to high heaven in the last month that they won't charge Hunter Biden with anything. He's only prosecuted to cover up crimes with Joe Biden. They'll drop these charges before the trial. Biden's going to pardon him. The trial is rigged with a mostly black jury, and he won't get any jail time. You've been hearing this from the far right constantly. And that guy who put out that tweet, I follow a lot of people on social media, but one of my favorite follows is a guy that has a huge following himself because his tweets are just so damn good, and he's so honest and so fair. And I love it when he calls out the far right, particularly MAGA Republicans. I'm talking about Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch. He's also the co-host of Uncovered and a former federal and state prosecutor. And Ron joins us right now on PTL. Ron, it's a pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you?
Hey, doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's good to see you, my friend. First of all, I have a thank you for you. Thank you for sharing some of my Trump videos that you put up on your social media platform. It seemed to create quite a stir. Did it not, Ron?
Yeah, I used to be able to go out to the Trump rallies all the time, but I can't anymore because I'll get killed. But it's always enlightening when you can kind of go out there and blend in a little bit and just check out the scene. I also enjoy going through the parking lots, looking at the bumper stickers, the stuff that they write on their cars. I mean, to me, that's more interesting than the speeches is the people.
Oh, I didn't even listen to any of his speech. Yeah. I'm with you, my friend. I was doing all the other stuff, checking out the Trump Bibles. And, you know, it's funny because I was texting with you that morning and I kind of felt guilty when you asked me if I was there. And then I kind of got in my car and I went. So you kind of gave me a little bit of a push to do that, I guess. And I'm glad I actually did go. Let me ask you a question. I know you've never compared it to like the Klan like I did. And I'm not insinuating that every Trump supporter is a racist, because that's not true. That'd be a ridiculous thing to say. I have friends that are Trump supporters. I'm sure you do as well.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean we have to agree with them. But I make the case of it's like a cult, like the Klan, right? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that analogy?
I don't know that I would use the Klan, but I mean, I've used other ones like Jim Jones and what was the name of the People's Temple? That was his, or David Koresh, or some of these people. Yeah, there's a lot of the characteristics. I first started calling them a cult in 2019. And that was only after really seriously immersing myself in them, because I was just like an establishment Republican at the time, held a bunch of different offices, appointed and stuff. And I really just saw what was happening underneath the party. And I wanted to kind of delve in there and figure these people out, because a lot of them I had never seen before Trump. You never saw a lot of these people at Republican meetings or rallies or events. A lot of these people are new people. They never even voted before 2016. So I really wanted to kind of understand these people. And once I dove into that world, you really see that it's like a cult.
And I agree with you. And it seems to me that there's a couple different types of Trump supporters. I want to get your thoughts on this. There's, uneducated, as Trump said, he likes the uneducated, maybe people that are very brainwashed. And then there's people that are intelligent people, but they understand that to remain in power, they need to kiss the ring of Donald Trump, or maybe it's a financial situation. Maybe they're extremely wealthy and they think Trump will save them money in their bank account. Do you feel that way, that there's two different types of Trump supporters out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of three. I think there's that one, that the very educated, wealthy, sophisticated people that are very cynical, and they understand that like they have to play this game, but Trump is very easily manipulated, and a lot of them have risen higher in life with income, appointments. A lot of these people have things on their resume that no one else, like you take a Cash Patel or Rick Grinnell or John McEntee. These people have these incredibly high sounding titles on their resumes because of Donald Trump. There's no one else, Stephen Miller. There's nobody else that would have put them in high government positions other than Trump. So they have that crew of people who either have served under him or want jobs in his next administration. And so that's that group. Then you have that group that is just very uneducated, very brainwashed, very misguided. They only watch Newsmax or Fox News or Real America's Voice or Right Side Broadcasting or Steve Bannon, and that's all where they get their information. And then you have that group in the middle that most people don't talk a lot about, but this is a big chunk of MAGA, which is there's this misconception that, and I had this too, that all of MAGA is the last group I just talked about, all just misguided, low information. And if you could just get them the facts, if you could just present to them the real truth about Donald Trump and his misogyny and his racism and all of his bankruptcies and failed business ventures and his corruption, that they'll see the light. But then you realize, though, that there's this big chunk of MAGA that fully understands all that stuff about Trump. And that's exactly why they like him. They like the fact that he's that way. And so once you understand that, then you really understand the three parts of MAGA,
I think that's really, really well said. Again, if you're joining us from Midas Touch, he's the editor-in-chief. Love what they do at the Midas Touch, and the co-host of Uncovered, Ron Filipkowski. All right, I want to get your reaction on the Hunter Biden verdict. And, not everybody, but a lot of people on the far right, as you eloquently pointed out on Twitter, there's black people on the jury. They're going to find him not guilty. They're going to throw the charges away. There's no way that he's going to be convicted. He's never going to go to jail. You've heard all that from the far right on so many of the major right-wing networks. And now the verdict came in guilty. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting how they've been continuously moving the goalposts on Hunter Biden since 2020, Really. I mean, when the laptop first came out with Rudy and all that, I followed this entire saga. I saw the laptop stuff back then in 2021, all of it, all the stuff with him in the hotel rooms with the hookers and smoking crack. Like, I saw that stuff in 2021. So none of this stuff is new or surprising to me. Hunter was definitely a party animal who was way down the road of drug addiction, right? So, but the issue is, how does any of that tie to Joe? That's really the only question, because, you know, they're all dunking on Hunter. Ha ha, we own the libs. Hunter got convicted. And I think most of us are like, so what? I mean, we have empathy for the guy. We understand, you know, what drug addicts go through. And a lot of us have had the same kind of challenges, family members. But at the same time, we're like, you know, he's not running for anything. This is not anything with Joe. So first, when they first came out with all the Hunter stuff, it was, they were going to tie Joe to this big international money laundering crime syndicate. And what do they have at the end of the day? They have, they can't even get that out of James Comer's committee. They can't even vote anything out of his committee on that investigation. And all they're left with is that he bought firearms while addicted to drugs. Big deal, you know.
Do you feel like, as I feel, the only real gun that so many of these far-right MAGA Republicans care about is an unloaded gun that Hunter Biden had for about 2 weeks?
Well, that's been the funny part, is watching their reaction to the verdict today. A lot of them, Gates was one. Several others are like, you know what? I don't even think this should be a crime, though. They're like, you know, their take on it is basically like, Hunter's a piece of shit. We don't like Hunter. We think he's done a lot worse than this, but at the same time, we don't even think this really should be a crime, because you have to realize a lot of these hardcore Second Amendment people, they don't think there should be any gun laws. So they think this whole thing is kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, they despise Hunter Biden. You know,
I want to read to you Charlie Kirk, who I think is just despicable, but here's what he put on social media. Hunter Biden guilty, yawn. The true crimes of the Biden crime family remain untouched. This is a fake trial trying to make the justice system appear balanced. Don't fall for it. What's your response to that?
Yeah, that's one of their takes is, well, they're just making him the sacrificial lamb on these relatively minor charges to divert attention away from the big stuff. But here's the thing. The House, James Comer, for 3 years did nothing else, and Jim Jordan, those two did nothing else but investigate the Hunter Biden Burisma stuff. I followed it very closely. I read all the transcripts of every deposition that they made public, and most of them they did not make public. And there's just absolutely nothing there. There is nothing there. I could sit down and I could debate James Comer all day long, as Jamie Raskin has done, as Jared Moskowitz has done, and show that what they have is nothing. They have no evidence to tie Joe directly to it. So it's easy for a guy like Charlie Kirk to say that, but if they have the proof, why didn't they even bring it up for a vote to impeach Joe Biden? Moskowitz challenged him one day, it was pretty famous that day, and he said, okay, let's vote on it right now. I challenge you, call it up for a vote, Comer, Mr. Chairman, call it up for a vote. And the reason why he did that is because Moskowitz knew that there were several members, Republicans on that committee, that were going to vote against it because it wasn't proven. Look, Fox's chief legal analyst, Jonathan Turley, who's Trump's favorite legal analyst, even he said they didn't have enough proof.
Right. And I love your tweets when you go, well, here's Mr. Turley again. What a credible person to talk about this legal case. I love your sarcasm.
He predicted that Hunter would be found not guilty, by the way, because he was the one saying, oh, he's got an all black jury. And they sat a guy from the president of the Delaware NAACP in the front row. They're rigging it. It's sort of like the Godfather analogy, where they brought the guy's uncle in from Sicily to sit in the front row while he's testifying.
Right. Ron, don't you find it interesting that there's never any retractions with the far right? But you remember what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, where the conspiracy theories, Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, that it was some sort of gay relationship and he let him in. And then when the police report comes out, no retractions, no apologies. You know, and then, you know, for instance, this situation with Hunter Biden, all the people on the networks on the far right that said it would be a not guilty verdict and the black people on the jury would find him not guilty. It seems like when they're constantly wrong, whether it be the Donald Trump trial or this trial, there's never a retraction or an apology or just saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I got that one wrong.
The person that all goes back to, you could trace it back, is Roy Cohn. And I'll sort of explain, because First of all, the other thing is one of the main purveyors of that conspiracy was Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the one who was one of the first ones who spread that thing that this was a gay lover of Pelosi. And then 12 hours later, after 100 million people saw it, he quietly deletes the tweet and says nothing, issues no apology. So like you said, they never retract. So Donald Trump's real father really wasn't Fred Trump. The guy who taught him everything he knew back in the 70s was Roy Cohn, who was his first lawyer, who's basically a mob type lawyer. And Trump has talked about this, that he taught him several life lessons and that he's lived with to this day. And one of them is that, which is never retract, never apologize, no matter if you've completely made him. And you'll see this in Trump's speeches when he misspeaks a line or something, he'll play it off and act like he meant to say that, because under this philosophy, the Roy Cohn sort of philosophy, never ever admit you made a mistake, never apologize. And the whole MAGA movement and now the Republican Party has been infected with that philosophy, that this despicable, horrible person, Roy Cohn, who's one of the worst Americans in history of this country, has now his life philosophy now governs the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's just mesmerizing to me. I always wanted to ask you this question. You're obviously an extremely educated, intelligent man, a lifelong Republican, right? Until recently.
Right.
If you were in a room with Donald Trump privately, I'm curious, what, if anything, would you say to him?
I think, well, I mean, there would be a lot. I think I'd really want to talk about the McCain stuff, because that was really like, I never liked Donald Trump going back to the 80s, so I kind of always knew what he was about. And I was a USFL fan and he wrecked that league growing up. So I never really liked him. I always thought he was a huckster and a con artist. But, when he ran for president, I had open mind. I was a Republican. I did not support him in the primary. I voted for Rubio. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe he's matured. Maybe he's outgrown a lot of maybe the gravity of the office and the situation will make him, see the light and straighten up his act. But, then he came out with that McCain stuff where he talked about the fact that he was a POW, right, doesn't make him a war hero, that kind of thing. And it's just like, I really would want to like pin him down on that, and flesh that out. And I also would like to pin him down on his abortion stance as well. Yeah. So I think really like, I'd also like to ask him about his proposal to have parents elect principals of their elementary schools and middle schools. And I'd like to spend 5 minutes with him, having him explain to me how that's going to work.
Yeah, I think that would be a great conversation to listen to. One more quick question for you. And that would be like, what would you say to some of your Republican friends that have served this country, that are voting for a man, suckers and losers, dodging the military multiple times, the stuff he said about John McCain, I don't respect him because he was captured, and your Republican friends that are female, after this man is a liable sexual abuser proven in a courtroom, 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, as you know, including his ex-wife. What would you say to your Republican friends today? Women, brave men and women in uniform. What do you say to them that still support this man?
Well, I think the most powerful arguments, and you see this a lot from former Republicans on social media, like Rick Wilson, George Conway, Bill Kristol. We could go on and on down the line. Adam Kinzinger, who's still a Republican, but hopefully not much longer, is we all sort of use a similar approach to our Republican friends that are still kind of hanging in there. And we try to use the fact that because their reflex to that will be fake news, that was on CNN, that story was in the Atlantic, fake news. And that's sort of what I hear back from them on that stuff. And then what you say to them is, no, this is not coming from the fake news. This is coming from Republican Marine Corps generals, Army generals, multiple, not just Kelly. Donald Trump's own chief of staff, who was a 4-star Marine general, is the one who said this. So it's not the fake news. But still, because it came through the filter of CNN and the Atlantic, and because Kelly never went on camera or did an interview about this, he just talked to reporters. they don't believe it. And that's why I've been so insistent over and over again on, I know John Kelly is not on social media, but I know that a lot of his friends are. And so I just keep, some of whom follow me, who are generals, and I just keep putting this out there to Kelly, taunting him. You have to go on camera because, as you can see, they don't believe that you said this. So the only way that some of these people are going to believe it is to hear it directly from you.
I agree. Even though he wrote a letter to CNN, but he didn't actually get in front of the camera. I could not agree with you more. He needs to be in front of a camera and saying that. Okay, I lied. One more quick question.
I
don't know if you've even made a prediction what's going to happen in November. I don't know if you've publicly even made that prediction, but if I asked you here, I know there's a lot of time between now and November and things can change. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to win based on what you know?
I mean, I haven't really predicted it. I mean, I pray, of course, that it's going to be Biden. You know, I really think that this first debate is going to be so important. I hate to put so much on the debate, but
agree.
I think that there's this big chunk of undecided voters who really don't like Trump. His negatives are 60%. I mean, you got 60% of the people who are saying we absolutely do not want to vote for this man. However, we believe that Joe Biden is too old and he can't make it through 4 more years, and we don't like Kamala Harris. So that's like this big chunk of people. And I think that the State of the Union really helped with those people, sort of bring some of them around like, hey, he did pretty good there. But really the debate going head to head against Trump, if he comes out and does well and speaks well and, you know, doesn't make a lot of gaffes and mistakes, I think that the polls are really going to come around. So I think that this debate is one of the most important debates ever, just because of so many voters having questions about Biden's cognitive ability.
Couldn't agree with you more. I've said that on the air constantly. It's more important for Joe Biden than Donald Trump. He has to prove to some of those people that he doesn't even have to win the debate, right, Ron? He just needs to prove that he's competent and he's still fit for the job. I wanted to just publicly thank you, Ron, for sharing some of my videos at the rally the other day. It seems like a lot of your followers enjoyed it. And I want to really thank you for that. I love what you guys do at Midas Touch. And you're there's a reason why you have such a large following. You're just really good at what you do, and you just tell it like it is. And I have the utmost respect for you and everybody else there at Midas Touch, even though one of your coworkers called me a right-wing host. He was wrong. And I laughed at that. And I had some listeners like, really? Somebody called me a right-wing host? They obviously don't know what I do, but that's okay.
Yeah, Brian, I told Ben, he's like, oh, tell him I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, don't worry, I'm going on his show. We'll make up for it that way. So
I can understand why he would think that, though, because 99% of talk radio shows are right-wing shows. So I can understand why
I think the reason was it because of what you were saying to the people you kept saying, why are you leaving? Like you were sort of acting like you were outraged
right
that they were leaving, you know?
Yeah, I was very sarcastic, but but no, you guys are great over there. Ben's a good dude, and so are you. And I appreciate you taking the time joining me on the show again, Ron. Appreciate the good work. I don't need to promote your Twitter page. You have enough followers on there, but I appreciate you coming on, Ron. Thank you so much.
Right,
have a good one. All right, take care.
See you.
Appreciate it. That's the great Ron Filipkowski. Man, is that guy a great follow. Man, is he smart and eloquent in his thoughts. Far more than me. I'll be honest with that. And I highly recommend you check out his stuff on Twitter. It's great. And he was nice enough to share some of my videos going to the Trump rally the other day. And he has a huge following. And there's a reason for that. Like I said, very intelligent, very well spoken, as you just heard. There's not many people in the world that I agree with when it comes to just about anything. But I would say Ron is one of them. I mean, I don't think I've ever disagreed with any of his takes on anything. And he's a Republican. At least he's a lifelong Republican, but he calls out MAGA. He calls out Donald Trump. He's not afraid to tell it like it is. And I appreciate that so much about Ron. He's the best. All right. Now we're going to get the other side of the coin, so to speak. Coming up next from the David Pollock show, he is a staunch Trump supporter. I know he's going to have some opinions that we're going to disagree on when it comes to the Hunter Biden stuff, when it comes to the Donald Trump trial and everything else in between. David Pollock is going to be joining us next. I promise you it's going to be entertaining. I'm getting messages from people. Yes, don't worry. We're going to be taking calls in hour number 2. But David Pollock, staunch supporter, is going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com. And get started.
My name is Kola Akimbade. I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas. As mayor, we will offset the off-season by diversifying our economy, bringing technology, high-paying jobs, and strengthening our entertainment industry. In order to tackle this issue of homelessness, we need new money because the budget will never be enough. Therefore, we will legalize prostitution and tax money will flow. Today, go to our website, Kola, K-O-L-A, kolaformayor.com, and my phone number, 725-263-2660. Support our campaign and donate today. Again, kolaformayor.com at 725-263-2660. My name is Kola Akimbade, and I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
I am Eva Chase, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, Democrat with progressive ideas, including a woman's right to choose, public money for public schools, student debt relief reduction, and forgiveness. As a trans woman and a veteran, I will fight to protect the democracy of our country. Vote and support Eva Olivia Chase for Nevada State Assembly District 16.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. A very busy Tuesday. My thanks to Ron Filipkowski for joining us from Midas Touch. He's the best, man. He's one of my favorite people that comment on politics, is for sure. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill located at Flamingo and Jones. Today happens to be Tuesday. Every Tuesday this month, you show your TAM card at Jackson's, you get $50 in free slot play. I was out there yesterday having a good time. Great food, great atmosphere, great people, and they're giving out $1,500 a week in gas cards. If you earn 200 points on any slot machine, you get in this electronic drum and a chance to win a $100 free gas card. Check it out, Jackson's Bar and Grill located at Flamingo and Jones. Quick programming note for you. Of course, the elections being tonight. Tomorrow, Amy Tarkanian, the former Nevada Republican chair, is going to be joining us in studio with commentary. She's a former Trumper, no longer. Love Amy, and you see her all over the networks. MSNBC, she's on there all the time. She's joining me in studio tomorrow, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We got the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, that's going to be joining us on the show on Friday. He's always phenomenal, and I always love talking to this guy. I'm going to be in one of his spaces. I don't normally do spaces on Twitter, but I'm doing a space today. And, I don't know how it's going to go, but I'll be honest with you. I'm very much looking forward to it because there's a lot of Republicans, MAGA supporters that are very angry with me on social media. From the David Pollock show, the guy joining us right now, David Pollock. Dave, always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I loved your commercial break. It started with me wanting pizza because Stallone sounded awesome. And then we went to like a sex box, then legalizing prostitution, and then hockey. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
That's my show, man. That's what I do. That's my show. I do it all. But,
I love it, man.
I love having an array of different advertisers that support what I do. But I appreciate that, David.
Yeah, no, great,
and I'm
great
looking
stuff.
forward. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to going on your space tonight. Let me get your first reaction to Hunter Biden. Let me ask you there, the verdict. Was this expected for you? What were your thoughts?
Well, this is the first time I'm hearing this right now. You're telling me there was a verdict? That was a Trump joke, so I don't know if you got it there. Look, man, I've been talking about this last night. We speculated on what would happen today. Then I've been talking about this all morning with people. Look, there's a lot of issues here, and I'm going to break it down into 3 prongs because I know the big issue, the political issue, is people talking about, well, doesn't this mean that no one is above the law? If the president's son can be convicted, doesn't that mean Trump can be convicted? And that's been sort of the conversation of the morning. That's one thing I want to talk about. The Second Amendment thing has got a lot of people concerned because of the way you fill out these applications. There's concern with vets, and so people have been bringing that around. And the other thing is this Hunter Biden laptop that suddenly exists. So it's the verdict in and of itself, it's one part, but this is a multifaceted, very interesting type story. I mean, what do you expect for 2024? Anything less? No. Definitely
No,
not.
I don't. I mean, listen, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about the laptop, that he was having sex with underage Chinese boys. I've even heard stuff like that before. I never went on the air and said that the laptop didn't exist. I know that others did. I didn't know whether it existed or not. Nobody knew for sure, except members.
They said it
of
was
the FBI.
Russian disinformation. That's what the media was saying in 2020.
Well, I can't speak to some members of the media that might have said that. All I can say is that there was a lot of disinformation out there about the laptop that hasn't been proven. Yeah, the laptop exists, but that doesn't mean there's stuff on his laptop proving that he had, sex with underage girls and that forth. I guess my point is you had people on national networks on the right. There's black people on the jury. They're going to find him not guilty. It's Joe Biden's son. Joe Biden's going to pardon his son. This is a sham. It'll never, they'll drop it before the trial. And I don't see any of these Republicans retracting. And I'm not saying you said those things, but I don't see any of those people retracting what they said. That's my problem.
Usually you make me defend other Republicans saying things. So I appreciate you didn't make me, well, so-and-so said this. What do you agree? I'm like, oh, come on, ask me what I say.
I know you didn't say that, but there's a lot of people on the far right that have.
Well, look, I'm telling you, this is a difficult situation because and I don't want to put on my tinfoil hat because I don't want to lose my credibility with your viewers if I have any at all. But it's difficult because, there was a plea deal last year that was rejected that included this gun charge. It was a tax thing and a plea deal. Correct. And then at the last minute, they're like, no. We don't think this plea deal is enough to cover these charges. And at the time, there was concerns about whether he registered a foreign agent. They were trying to loop all that stuff in there. Now go fast forward about a year. And I don't know, I guess it was a year ago or something. And now we have this conviction on the gun charge. And, you you have to put on your conspiratorial hat and say, well, why didn't they let this guy get a plea deal on this gun charge? Why did they say it wasn't good enough? They're giving him 6 months probation and all this other stuff. And the thing is, they're not going to send Hunter to jail, by the way. I know
he doesn't deserve to go to jail, and I don't think Trump's going to go to jail either.
Well, but we never know what's going to happen these days in this world.
That's just my opinion, right?
But if you're not going to send Hunter to jail, right, the end result is going to be something very similar to the plea deal anyway. So why revoke a plea deal, send the guy to a trial just to get a conviction to sentence him to this? Yeah, go ahead.
I have an answer. Here's what I think. You could make even though by the way, I respect the jury's decision. Joe Biden respects the jury's. I want to be very clear.
I want to talk about that later too, because that was very interesting.
But to be clear here, could it be possible they did it for political purposes? You hear Donald Trump making those claims and Republicans making those claims all the time. If this is not Joe Biden's son, is he convicted on these charges? Now, I respect the decision. I don't hear anybody going after the judge or the judge's family or the jury or the two-tier justice system. But I think one could make the argument that if he's not Hunter Biden, this probably doesn't even go to trial.
Yeah. And you have to wonder why it did. And so whether you're looking at it nefariously or just for both, you could look at it from both angles. One, they wanted to get the conviction, and the other one is they didn't want to make it look like he was getting special treatment. It could go either way, but this is the big problem that I've talked to you about every time we talk about high-profile cases involving politics, is that, one, the perception is there that politics has infiltrated our justice system, and that's a problem for people who are involved in the justice system. And the other thing is, if we are making decisions based on politics in the criminal justice system, that's a problem too. We have to fix this because this isn't the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, so we are going to talk about this on your space on Twitter, which I think will be very entertaining tonight. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Is that right? I think I got that right.
I think we said 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah,
I'm an Easternist. I never know what Western is, and I have to start counting on my fingers and toes when I figure out what the Pacific time zone is.
Fair enough. but let's talk about what I assume we'll talk about tonight, which is the videos that have circulated on social media. Millions and millions of views, where Newsweek and CNN actually wrote articles about some of my videos that went viral, right?
Yeah.
I used a term that a lot of MAGA Republicans are offended by, the Klan.
Yeah.
And I said that I felt like I was at a Klan rally. What I didn't say is that everybody at the rally I believe to be racist. Everybody at the rally I believe want people hanging from trees or anything of that nature. The reason why I said that is because it felt like a Klan rally, is because it was a cult-ish type atmosphere. The Klan is a cult. So I use that analogy. Why? They're selling the Bibles, the Trump Bibles. They're selling the gold sneakers. Everybody decked out in MAGA gear. When you look at Joe Biden supporters, for the most part, they're not buying Joe Biden Bibles. They're not buying Joe Biden condoms like they were the other day. By the way, there was a table selling Donald Trump condoms. I'm not making that up. And it felt very cultish-like. And that's why I use the term comparing it to the Klan, not because I think every person that supports Donald Trump is a racist, because I don't think that, and that would be a ridiculous statement. Some do, but not all, of course. That's why I use that term, and I do stand by that, even though it's a harsh term that a lot of people have a problem with. That's how I feel. Where am I wrong?
Well, look, I think Joe Biden wishes people loved him enough to wear Joe Biden things. I think Trump has a lot of organic enthusiasm. People like him. People love him in some instances. They feel very desperate. They feel very left out by the political establishment. And Donald Trump, for many people, is a symbol of hope, in a way, of breaking through a political establishment that have tossed him aside for so long. Real quick, though, I want to circle back on something that's really important that I don't want to overlook in this Hunter Biden thing. And then we can get right back into the Trump thing. And this is important for your audience, everybody's audiences, because it involves what the government defines as being illegal drugs. Because there's a lot of states across, I think Nevada is one of them, where recreational use of marijuana, even medicinal use of marijuana, is legal. Federal law still prohibits the use of marijuana. Anybody who goes and fills out a gun application and says, unless the state law actually carves out an exception for this, they could be lying on an application. And the other side of it is, the other part of this that Hunter got scooped up with was, or you were addicted to narcotics. Okay. There are a lot of people, veterans and people in pain, that have been hooked on narcotics because of their doctors who have been overprescribing. There's potentially a lot of felons who go in and try to exercise their Second Amendment right to go and buy a gun, who are hooked on pain pills because they're in chronic pain,
Right.
or vets who have PTSD and have to use marijuana, medical marijuana, or even recreational use of marijuana. We have to be really careful about how we're scooping people up under this gun charge. Sometimes bad facts make bad law, and I'm really concerned about this one. And I don't want to get into a whole Second Amendment argument here, but we got to be careful with the way we use in these drugs. And this isn't something people should celebrate, because a lot of people can find themselves in a situation, and they're not going to be the president's son.
I
So
don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I think we have to be more careful about a lot of things in society. Get bad people getting their hands on guns. We have to do a better job of dealing with those that suffer from addiction in this country. We lost my sister at the age of 37 last year to a drug overdose. I think about her every day. And, I feel for people with drug addiction. I don't like the attacks on the right mocking Hunter Biden because he did a lot of cocaine and he suffered. And I would imagine he still is suffering, even though he's doing better. So listen, I'm with you on that. I just wish Republicans would care just as much about, illegal guns on the streets and AR-15s being sold to 18-year-olds. Thousands of rounds of ammunition, but let's not get into that. I know we can get into that another
But
time.
that's a good point about the addiction. I'm glad you brought it up, because
Sure.
that is the sad part of the story that's being overlooked. We do have a problem with addiction in this country. The fentanyl deaths is the number one killer basically in the United States now in a lot of places. You sell Narcan now at the grocery store. So that is a significant issue. It's being overlooked here, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's important. That's a bipartisan issue. We need to do more to protect people from drugs.
I wish everybody would feel the same way you feel, that it's a bipartisan issue. I agree with you, but I get very frustrated when people make it political. The same reasons why I get frustrated when somebody who's undocumented commits a heinous crime. They want to put it all on Joe Biden, but I could name you plenty of heinous crimes that undocumented people committed under the Trump administration, and I didn't hear Republicans blaming Donald Trump. But anyway, that's another story for another show.
Sure.
But going to my verbiage, as I mentioned.
Yeah, you want to talk about you calling Trump
it felt like
rally
a Klan rally. Yeah, it feels like a Klan rally, right?
Sure.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Look, like I said, I know it feels that way. You have to understand. I hate to actually, I don't want to say you have to understand. From my perspective, people love Donald Trump, and they love his rallies are like tailgates. And unless people, and you went to one, and I commend you for going as like an oppositional person to a Trump rally, just being out there and having the courage to do that, bringing me on the show to have these conversations, willing to come into this space. I appreciate that you can talk, say what you want to say, and then stand by that. That takes courage. A lot of people just sit behind their keyboards and attack people behind an avatar. So respect for that. That being said, I have a different perspective of Trump rallies. What I see is people who are engaged in the civil process and their obligations to be informed. I mean, they show up, they go to a Trump rally, they get excited, they're engaged civically. We want this stuff. Yes, they love Donald Trump, and they wear capes, flags as capes, and they think, they wear clothes and they hats, but that's the Trump brand. That is the movement. There's a lot of excitement behind Donald Trump, and it might concern you because you don't like their policies.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not a cult. It's a fan base.
We can agree to disagree on that. But you said they're for a civil process.
Yeah.
Donald Trump the other day said that those January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom physically assaulted police officers, again the other day, he called them patriots and he called them hostages. That's not a civil process. And January 6th, there was nothing civil about took place that day. And then you say they want to be informed, when 90%, probably higher than that, by the way, of the people that were there the other day still think that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So I would argue that the overwhelming majority of these MAGA supporters that are going to these rallies are severely disinformed, would be a nice way of putting it. And they are not for a civil process because they support what happened on January 6th. Donald Trump defends and calls them patriots, the people that attacked police officers, and they still believe that the 2020 election was stolen. I'm just saying, I don't think there's any civil way of thinking about that. And I think the overwhelming majority of these people are severely disinformed.
Well, on the January 6th note, and you said some, and he said some, that's an operative word. I know personally, I've heard stories, I've been involved in organizations that there are people who were at the Capitol, whether they're walking through, taking videos, whether on the Capitol steps or just at the Capitol, not even going inside, that have been swept up in this. Yes, there were some bad actors that day that attacked police officers and did
But
things.
they're not in jail. Those people are not in jail right now. If you didn't go into the Capitol,
What do you mean those people? No, that is not true at all. There are people who went to jail, who were arrested, had their lives destroyed.
To jail, but they're not in jail now.
But so wait, so the time they spent in solitary confinement for 12 months because they were treated like a terrorist, that doesn't count. We can't just
So you would have to give me a specific example of what exactly they did, what they were charged with, and how long they spent in jail.
I can give you specific examples.
I had Jacob on this show before. I've had others that did go to jail. I had a nice lady who's now anti-Trump.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I've had multiple people on this show. And listen, Jacob did his time. I think that's a very serious crime, even if you don't defecate on Nancy Pelosi's desk, destruction of property, or attack a police officer. Here's my problem, though. So we could have a civil conversation about this, and maybe you disagree with the way some of these people are treated. But Donald Trump made a generic, let's just call it for what it is, a generalization. He called all those prosecuted on January 6th hostages and patriots. Let's be clear.
Some of the people, and I can tell you this I can tell you personally, I know this to be true. When Donald Trump becomes reelected in 2024, he is going to look at the different cases, the January 6 cases, and he's going to look at pardoning those nonviolent people who became victims of the January 6 prosecutions. That is what he's been consistent about that. He's never said that everybody that was arrested or charged on January 6 were innocent and where they were pardoned. He's always been specific.
He said they are. He hasn't said, I'm not talking about those who attack police officers. I'm talking about the nonviolent criminals. He's never talked like that. He uses generalization. He says they are. And I have a serious problem with that. By the way, there's nothing patriotic, even if you didn't attack a police officer. There's nothing patriotic about going there chanting "Hang Mike Pence," believing that the 2020.
But not everybody there was chanting "Hang Mike Pence." There was a lot of people who showed up to peacefully protest. Some people got swept up and actually entered the building, but there weren't. But the majority of the people, the great majority of the people there weren't there to commit violence or break things. They were there to demonstrate, which we celebrate in the United States. And I think a lot of people got swept up in it.
I'm specifically talking about those who were prosecuted. I understand there were hundreds of thousands of people that day, the overwhelming majority of them not violent. But every single time, and again, I'm not saying you do this, David. I got to preface it by saying that. But every single time when I talk to many of the MAGA supporters about January 6th, they immediately want to talk about Black Lives Matter protests, right? And, the point that I always bring up is I'm not talking about the organization. I'm talking about the movement. It was for equality. I don't condone any of the violence or the agitators or attacking cops or any of that stuff. But Republicans make it sound like nobody was arrested, which thousands of people were arrested during those Black Lives Matter protests around the country. And I haven't heard any Democrat in office make a generalization that they're all patriots or hostages. But yet, if they're
there were Democrats who encouraged it. People like Maxine Waters out of California, who are saying it's their duty to go out and do these certain things. But
no, that's not true. She didn't condone violence. She might have said confrontational. She might have said get in their face, but she never condoned the violence.
Do you remember the second impeachment when they were saying that Trump was responsible for January 6th because he said we're going to fight, and they tried to use that word to suggest that he meant physically, that he was asking his supporters to fight people? When Maxine Waters said that same word, we're going to fight. But what I'm telling you is you can take words. Yeah, you can take words and they can have, through different lenses, they can convince people that they mean different things. And the rules have to apply equally across the board.
So I think we all could agree the reason why Black Lives Matter protests happened and the reason why there were violence had nothing to do with Maxine Waters. I think hopefully we could agree on that. I think we all also could agree if Donald Trump,
rhetoric, though, the rhetoric has something to do with it, not her rhetoric specifically.
I don't think her saying be confrontational had anything to do with anybody committing violent acts at Black Lives Matter protests. That's just my personal opinion. We can disagree on that.
Sure.
But I think we also could agree, or maybe we won't, if Donald Trump isn't saying months before the 2020 election that it's rigged, the same type of crap he said in 2016, January 6th doesn't happen. You don't
know about that. Listen, I went to bed on election night in 2020, like everybody else did, going, ooh, this looks like it's going to be. In my whole life, every time I've seen an incumbent re-election, I'm 43, the incumbents usually do very well. I was born before Carter. I think, who was the last president not to get reelected as incumbent? It might have been Carter.
I believe so, yeah.
So it's not typical that you go to bed and you wake up with an incumbent president, especially when they're way ahead like that. I woke up the next morning and mail-in ballots. Oh, this group of mail-in ballots. Oh, Fulton County had a water main break. Oh, in Michigan,
But
this
we were in the
happened.
middle of a global pandemic, and there were
Fine.
tons of mail-in
But-
ballots that
but
weren't
the point
counted.
is, when we knew that the people had concerns about mail-in ballots, when this was an untested political election with in an environment, I'll go with that. In a time where there was a lot of political sort of unrest. I mean, Trump said there is real potential here for something to happen, and he warned about
that
it
in 2016. He said the exact same stuff.
Should he ignore the potential abuse of the mail-in ballot system and just say, whatever happens, happens? He has a duty as president of the United States to investigate.
He also has
potential
a duty
election fraud,
and he also has duty to tell the truth. There's been no evidence of widespread voter fraud, and to this day, he still says that the election was stolen, which is a blatant lie. He knows he lost. He's full of it. You know it.
Wait, when you said there's been no evidence of widespread
voter fraud,
define widespread.
Anything that could have changed the outcome of the 2020 election.
But how do we know if it could have changed the outcome of the election when
we're talking hundreds of thousands of votes in districts that has never been proven anywhere? And Mike Lindell says, it was proven in Wisconsin. No, it wasn't. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. None. Zero.
Let me ask you this. Is there evidence of voter fraud? Take the word widespread out. Is there evidence of voter fraud
in every single election, from a mayoral election to the presidential election?
Okay.
So what?
Well, that's fair. So if there's evidence of voter fraud, and then you have an election that has an abnormal amount of mail-in ballots that at the end of the night, after the polls closed, these mail-in ballots came in, the outcome of the election was different. Are you saying that nobody is sane to question the result of the election or the method of voting?
By saying this.
Based on fraud, not widespread fraud, based on fraud.
This is important.
Yeah.
There's a defining difference between questioning an election and saying that the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden cheated and it's rigged. Make no mistake about it. Donald Trump is not questioning an election. He's claiming lies that the Democrats cheated and it was rigged. That's not true. You have a right to question an election.
It's true, but you said it's true. You just don't think it was widespread.
Well, that's not what I think. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. There is nothing been put forth that proves that there was enough fraud, even close to it, that could have overturned the outcome of an election. And I'm just trying to say he said the same things before the election against Hillary in 2016. And there wasn't a global pandemic. There weren't a lot of mail-in ballots. He said the same stuff. You can look it up.
But Hillary Clinton also called his election victory. He basically called it Russian election interference. She went around the country saying that Donald Trump was only president because of Russian election interference. Is that just as irresponsible?
That's not what she said. Well, first of all, by the way, she conceded the following day, and she didn't incite an insurrection. Number two, and that's important, Donald Trump has to this day not conceded.
Number and then going around the country and saying that Russia is the reason why Donald Trump is president, and then having him impeached over the issue is not just conceding.
There was Russian interference, and that was proven. Now, do I think it could have changed the outcome of the election? Probably not, but that's been proven. There was Russian interference.
And there was election fraud, just not widespread.
Okay, but I don't ever remember Hillary. First of all, she conceded. She called him an illegitimate president.
But Donald Trump, it also conceded. He left the White House, voluntarily. He wasn't dragged out. He turned over power peacefully to Joe Biden.
That doesn't mean he conceded. Conceded means you pick up the phone or you make a public statement saying, congratulations on your win, the way Hillary Clinton did. That doesn't mean he conceded. He had to leave. Doesn't mean he wanted to
But he
leave.
did. And that's an important point.
But
although he didn't concede the election because he had doubt in the legitimacy of it, he still left the White House. He still didn't stay there and go, I was reelected, right? So there's a difference between believing you won an election, but then conceding to the democratic process and turning over power to the elected. He left the White House. That's a concession.
He left the White House because he had to and he was forced to, not because he wanted to.
But if he's the kind of guy who would hide classified documents in his basement in Mar-a-Lago, why isn't the guy would just hang out in the White House and not leave? It's inconsistent with.
So you're giving him credit for being forced to leave the White House?
He wasn't forced. He left voluntarily. It's not like he was carried out.
Well, he would have been.
He didn't have to. He didn't have to.
He would have been carried out. You probably
didn't. Right.
But that doesn't mean he conceded and he's still lying. Doesn't that bother you as a Republican or as an American?
No.
He's still lying. He's saying that he won the election. It's a lie.
He said the election was rigged.
Right,
He said
which
the
it
2020
wasn't.
election was stolen.
Which it wasn't.
There
It
is,
wasn't.
listen, as you said, there's fraud in every election. And
It
in
wasn't
that
stolen.
and in that election, there were irregularities that even let's just concede for a second, even if it wasn't widespread, it was enough irregularities to cast doubt in the outcome of the election. So
The reason why there was doubt is because they're, again, going back to the cult members that believe everything that Donald Trump said. There weren't any major irregularities. The reason why there were so many mail-in ballots is because we were in the middle of a global pandemic.
But what about the videos of the people literally stuffing mailboxes with stacks of ballots?
Are you talking about 2,000 mules? Everything in that stupid
that's not
documentary has
real?
been debunked. There hasn't been a crime that was proven to be committed.
So
in that
who were the
entire
people stuffing the
documentary.
ball boxes?
There's no evidence that there was.
There was a
that was
video of
illegal.
it. What evidence do you need? There's
Was
literally
somebody
a video.
convicted? Was it proven?
What
Was
do
there
you
a
mean?
conviction?
Well, okay, because
tell
somebody
me.
wasn't charged with it, and there have been people charged, by the way. But
Okay.
but just because we weren't able to identify the women and that were stuffing the mailbox with stacks of ballots because they weren't charged, we're just going to say it didn't happen?
So because there are a couple videos out there claiming that, somebody stuffed 30 or 40 ballots in somewhere that, by the way, wasn't proven in a courtroom, that's makes it okay for Donald Trump saying that it was rigged and the election was stolen. Come on, David. Come on, man.
Listen, a lot of people, I think the majority of the country, if you poll it, believe that have serious concerns about the outcome of 2020.
I respectfully disagree with you. The majority of the country voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. The majority of the country overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden in 2020. If not for the Electoral College, Republicans would never win presidential elections. I think they've lost 7 of the last 8 presidential elections of the popular vote. I get confused when people say, well, at least half the country is MAGA. That is not true. At least half the country thinks that the election was stolen. There are 7 out of 10 Republicans think the election was stolen, but that's not half the country.
Well, let's not mix words. So I believe that the majority of the country has concerns about the way the 2020 election was handled. Now, I'm not saying the majority of the country believes it was stolen. Now, I also don't think the majority of the country is MAGA. I do believe there's a sizable chunk of people that are MAGA, the people you see at the rallies who are enthusiastically supporting Donald Trump. There's a scope of a scale of people who believe things, but I do believe the majority of the country thinks that there was something up with the 2020 election, whether it was stolen, whether or not. I just do. I think you underestimate how many people were concerned about the result of that election,
Well,
whether or not they think it was stolen.
Listen, it's not that I underestimate. I think there's a lot of people out there that are extremely misinformed. I understand that. I saw that the other day. But just because somebody claims something or worries about something doesn't mean it's true. There's also a percentage of people in this country that believe the earth is flat. That doesn't mean the earth is flat. I mean, there are a lot of people in this country that are misinformed, that think the 2020 election was stolen. They believe every single word that Donald Trump says and does, every single word. When he's on a plane in Vegas and he's leaving and he waves to an imaginary crowd, which, by the way, was proven. I have people that were at the airport. There was nobody there.
You know what, though? Trump's imaginary crowds are bigger than Biden's imaginary crowds.
Well, you know what? I'll say it like this, David. That's funny, but I'll say it like this. Trump could have 1 billion people show up at his rallies, and Joe Biden could have 10 people show up at his rallies, and I could care less. I can give an F. You know why? Because it's their job to govern. It's not their job to entertain. And my videos prove that thousands of people were leaving right in the middle of Donald Trump's speech. You know why? Because he sounds like a bumbling fool. That's what all of his speeches are. He's a bumbling fool who says ridiculous things. He's a victim. He whines like a little bitch, just like he did every day outside that courtroom. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden, like a man, gets into that van and drives away, and his father makes dignified statements about the judicial process. Can you admit to me, David, on PTL right now, this will break some news here, that Donald Trump is a whiny little bitch?
No, hell no. Donald Trump is probably and will go down in history as the best president to ever govern the United States. The opposite of that. Yes, it broke your heart. I know it. I know it.
See, that's a good promo because you can say that on our space tonight because I definitely have some choice words to that statement. But I look forward to joining you on the space tonight, David. I always appreciate a good, respectful conversation with you, my man.
Yeah,
and for the record, I just want to put this on the record, David. I don't think you're a Klan member. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
They wouldn't like me very much, I don't think.
David, I appreciate it, my man. From the David Pollock Show. I'll talk to you tonight on your space. I'm looking forward to that. And have a good one, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
David Pollock, everybody. Good guy. David's a good guy. You can disagree with people and still have good conversation. Obviously, I disagree with that. Donald Trump is the best president of all time. Oh, boy, we have a lot of people that want to chime in on this one. So here's what I'm going to do. In this very interactive show called PTL, we're going to take some phone calls on the other side of the break. We had one of the biggest followings on Twitter. I mean, this guy's got a gazillion followers from Midas Touch. We had Ron Filipkowski joining us. Love having him on. Very anti-Trump like me. And then we had somebody on. I like to hear people from the other side. David Pollock just joined us from the David Pollock Show. He just said Donald Trump is the best president ever. No, I disagree. And I also think he's a whiny little bitch. But and I'll keep calling him that, a felonious whiny little bitch, by the way. We'll take some phone calls on the other side. 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to do so. 702-221-7283. Phone lines are open. We'll take your phone calls next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Cheeto Jesus 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
My name is Kola Akimbade. I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas. As mayor, we will offset the off-season by diversifying our economy, bringing technology, high-paying jobs, and strengthening our entertainment industry. In order to tackle this issue of homelessness, we need new money because the budget will never be enough. Therefore, we will legalize prostitution and tax money will flow. Today, go to our website, Kola, K-O-L-A, kolaformayor.com, and my phone number, 725-263-2660. Support our campaign and donate today. Again, kolaformayor.com at 725-263-2660. My name is Kola Akimbade, and I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey accumulates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com and get started.
I am Eva Olivia Chase, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, Democrat with progressive ideas, including a woman's right to choose, public money for public schools, student debt relief, reduction, and forgiveness. As a trans woman and a veteran, I will fight to protect the democracy of our country. Vote and support Eva Olivia Chase for Nevada State Assembly District 16.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Check out my new website, pushingthelimits.live. Sign up for my newsletter. We got a lot of cool stuff up there, pushingthelimits.live. And appreciate all of you for joining us in the program. You know, tomorrow, the former Nevada Republican chair, Amy Tarkanian, will be joining us. We got some elections to talk about tomorrow. So Amy will be joining us in the studio. We got the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, who's going to be joining us on Friday. I appreciate David Pollock. He's awesome. He's a super nice guy. And, you know, even though we don't have to agree on everything, it's good to have those types of conversations. And I appreciate him coming on. And, of course, Ron Filipkowski. Ron. Promised I would open up the phone lines. The phone lines are jammed right now. You might be getting a busy signal, but keep trying. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Why don't we, let's see, who should we start off with? Numchuck, I'll let you decide this time. Let's go to Mark. Mark is first up. What's up, Mark?
How are you, Brian?
Hey, doing good, Mark. What's on your mind, man?
Just two things. Number one, the minute David said that Trump is going to go down as the best president in history, I had no use for him. I don't want to ever hear him again.
Well, obviously, I disagree with that.
The second thing is that the gentleman from the Midas Touch Network, whom I really like, I had asked him what questions would he ask Trump if he got him in a room. And one of the questions was, I would ask him why he attacked John McCain and did all of that nonsense. And I have the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the answer to be, and I'd like to hear your comment after I make this.
Sure.
I believe that Trump surrounds himself with people that he cannot stand up to people that have done better than him.
Yeah.
He cannot confront people who have accomplished more than him. So in order for him to be better than John McCain in his mind, he has to state that he was a coward.
Agree. Let me respond to that. First of all, remember when Powell died? Powell died and Donald Trump made some disparaging comments when John McCain died. I paid for the funeral. I took care of the funeral. I agree with you. So John McCain, regardless of what you might think of him politically, he was a war hero and a POW for over 5 years. Donald Trump is a coward who dodged the military multiple times. How do we know that? Well, the doctor who wrote him that medical slip that he had bone spurs, members of his family have come forward and said that he was coerced into doing so, and he dodged the military. So I agree with you. He knows people out there that are smarter, that are more eloquent, well-educated, come from great families like the Barack Obamas of the world. You remember the 5 years where Donald Trump was the birther issue. Obama wasn't born in this country. And then when it was proven that he was, Donald Trump didn't apologize. He didn't, this is who Donald Trump is. He wants it to be all about him, and anybody that's an honorable hero, that's exactly who Donald Trump is. So I agree with you 150%, and I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Joseph, who's next. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. First of all, hearing about your guest star in that show about saying that Trump is a better president, I say I don't care what he says. I say he's nothing more but a crybaby coward who was born to be one, and he's going to end up in prison as one due to his 34 convicted felons. And more importantly, everything about Trump, about those soldiers, and the most disgusting thing I ever heard from Trump was he says he always wanted a Purple Heart, like he thinks that's a Cracker Jack box prize.
Yeah.
But to me, I say he don't deserve any of those medals. Those medals belong to those soldiers who fought overseas.
You're right, Joseph. Remember what Donald Trump said? I've always wanted a Purple Heart. This is an easy way of getting it. You know, the guy is so complicit, doesn't even understand what that Purple Heart means and how to achieve one of those Purple Hearts. He's all about himself, and he's a coward, and he's a draft dodger, and he's never done anything for anybody else but himself.
And speaking of Hunter Biden, I understand that what Hunter Biden did was wrong, but at least I once read there was a statement in ABC News or something like that.
Yeah.
That Joe Biden says he still loves his son. That goes to show that Biden is still a family man. He still cares about his family.
Absolutely.
Unlike Trump,
yep,
who's going to be nothing more but a bad example for his son Barron.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you so much for the call. And I agree with you 100%. So I like hearing from MAGA callers, and I do get MAGA callers on this show. If you disagree with something that I said, instead of starting with an insult, instead of starting with something that is unintelligent, tell me why you disagree with me. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I just had a 30-minute interview with David Pollock, who's a staunch Trump supporter. We had a civil conversation. And I'm willing to do that with any callers. But if you're going to call into the show and you're going to, start your call with an insult or, that's it. I'm not interested in having a conversation with you. But if you would actually like to have a civil conversation, I'm willing to do that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Who are we going to next year? Let's go to Jeffrey. Jeffrey is next on PTL.
Under the rise. And here.
Okay, so I guess Jeffrey was not ready to go. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Danny. Danny is next on PTL. Hello, Danny.
Hey, I got two things for you.
Okay.
First off, I just wanted to say that Rich Voss will be at the Globe in Berlin, Maryland on June 20th.
Okay, so I don't know what that has to do with anything that we're talking about. As I said before, if you would like to call into the show and you disagree with something that I said, then I'm happy to have a conversation with you. In fact, I actually would rather it be that way. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. And we will be going back to the phone calls immediately here. Let's go to Tom. Tom is next up on PTL. What's going on, Tom? Where are you calling from?
Of course, Syracuse.
Syracuse, New York. I love it. What's going on, my man?
Yes. Okay, I've got three things here. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I think David Pollock is totally brainwashed. And I have the three issues here that I'd like to say is that Trump never called off who he calls now the warriors, the violent rioters on that day. So when David says
correct
that he didn't call them, he didn't call out. Yes, he did. He even had the anthem played, and all of them convicted criminals were singing with him at a rally.
Yeah.
Number two, as you pointed out, the courts never heard evidence that made the claims that David says that the election was stolen. We're a nation of laws here.
Yeah.
And number three, he and they believe, a large segment of society believes
yes
in this crap because Fox has a large audience.
Right.
But they've been proven in court to be liars too.
Sure. $800 million lie. That's a very expensive lie. You're absolutely right, Tom. And it's important to note that Donald Trump always categorizes those same January 6th insurrectionists and says he calls them hostages. He calls them patriots. In some cases, even called them heroes. And I find that to be so utterly repugnant and disgusting. It doesn't matter whether it's a Black Lives, because Republicans want to bring up Black Lives Matter protest if you bring up January 6th. And I always preface it by saying it doesn't matter whether it's a Black Lives Matter protest or January 6th. If you physically assault a police officer, you deserve to be in jail, period. There's no reason to justify it. And I've always said that, and I've been very consistent on that. If you break the law and you attack somebody or physically assault somebody or destruction of property, which we also know a lot of people did on January 6th, then you deserve to go to jail. There's nothing patriotic about that. There's nothing
Right.
heroic about that, Tom. And I got to get to some other callers, my friend. But it's good to hear from you out of Syracuse. Thanks for listening, my friend. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Chris, who's next up on PTL. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
Looking at all the fun these folks are having on their channel, Revenge of the Sith.
Well, I don't care.
folks.
Quite frankly, I don't care what other podcasts or unlistenable shows. I think it does say a lot because I don't do 30-minute shows or 1-hour shows, or this isn't the first time this has happened to me, by the way. I don't do 2 or 3 hour shows talking about somebody else's show. I come up with new content every day. I come up with my own guests every day. I play audio of the last 24 hours, and I have better things to do than to focus on another show and be obsessed with another show. Now, Chris, I'm sure you would never do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would never
No,
do
I do.
something.
I do the same thing. But
you do.
these
Okay.
guys are. Like, I've been very nice to you. I've only talked to you about the technical side of the radio. These guys are animals.
I
man.
don't
They're
care. I
savages.
don't. So did you want to talk about Donald Trump or anything that we've talked about on the show today?
Sure, but you were talking about these guys earlier. They've been trolling you, and it's
I
gonna
didn't
get
talk about.
bad.
I've made general statements about trolls, and I find it to be extremely funny and actually flattering that people can't come up with their own content and they actually will do a show about my show. It means that they're obsessed with me. They probably pleasure themselves to me before they go to sleep at night, and I could care less. There never was idiots. They're morons. They're right-wing buffoons who have nothing better to do. They're probably uneducated and they're idiots. So I ask you again, Chris, about the topics that we've talked about today, which is Hunter Biden, the guilty plea. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you disagree with anything that I've said about it?
No, Brian, I just wanted to talk about the thing you talked about at the beginning of the show where these folks have been trolling you incessantly
Okay, well,
online.
have a nice.
I know you want to.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the phone call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283 if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right, we're going to go to our next caller. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on PTL. Hi, Gary. What's going on?
Hey, you know what? I'm a sucker and a loser for calling your show, and I don't have a poster of you. Somehow you piss me off so bad, it's ridiculous.
I'm sorry about
I'm a
that,
leftist.
Gary.
I don't know what the hell you are. What the hell are you? I'm a leftist. I want this damn border shut down and give people opportunities. That's why if I'm voting for Trump about 3 times, and I'm a convicted felon.
Well, Gary, I really don't know what to say to that. If you're a lefty or a righty, it doesn't really matter to me. I take calls from all sorts.
All of a sudden you don't.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I take calls from all sorts of different people. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. In fact, I'd rather take a call from somebody that disagrees with me, Gary. Unlike right-wing radio, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, the Laura Ingrams of the world, how often do they interview liberals and people that disagree with them? I welcome it. And as you know,
I can't stand Steven Sanchez with his the devil.
Well, nobody knows.
The devil that he's brainwashed.
Well, nobody knows
brainwashed.
Who he is. Nobody knows who
Tell
he
me,
is. I'm talking about
brainwashed.
Nobody knows who he is. I'm talking about the national
Who's
people.
brainwashed around here?
I think there are a lot of MAGA supporters that are brainwashed, Gary. But I do.
What do you got against brainwashed? We're all brainwashed. You're a little
all right. Well,
filled
thank
with
you,
brainwash.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I would like to consider myself a non-brainwashed person, but I do appreciate the call, Gary. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Christine. Christine is next up on PTL.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Brian, why waste your time with those assholes? Excuse my language.
Well, I don't.
They're definitely in the tank for Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I actually do enjoy the fact, Christine, that I triggered these MAGA buffoons so badly that some of them dedicate their entire show to me. But I do find it interesting that Hunter Biden is now convicted. And I don't hear a lot of the right wingers out there attacking the judge or attacking the jury. All of a sudden they believe in our justice system. But if the orange turd man, all of a sudden, is found guilty on 34 felony counts, it's a rigged 2-tier justice system. But if Hunter Biden is convicted, it's fair.
And it's no comparison. I mean, guess what? Let me tell you something. People don't realize it. My brother passed away. My brother was an addict. Addict will do anything.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I think had he not been an addict, he would not have gone to that point. But just to say this, all you MAGAs, MAGA, okay? Trump is not going to take his little turd, orange turd, in the White House to run from jail. He don't give a shit about you all. He said it. All Trump wants to do is to stay out of jail.
Well, I
That's
agree
all.
with you.
That's
The
not
reason,
insurrection.
and that is why I wanted to bring that up with David Pollock, because if you remember, Trump was saying that mail-in ballots, they're all rigged against him. But now, all of a sudden, he's telling people
He wants it.
He's telling people to
Exactly.
mail in ballot. So I do find that very interesting. 702.
I'm trying to-
I do find
I'm
it
trying to get-
interesting. You're absolutely
I'm
right.
trying to get-
I appreciate the call, dear. Thank you so much for calling in. We got enough time to maybe take a few more calls. The number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, that number is 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Derek. Derek is next up on PTL.
Hi, this is Derek. I'd like to talk about
where are you calling from,
bigotry
Derek?
and-
Where are you calling from, Derek?
I'm calling from Oklahoma, New York.
I didn't know there was an Oklahoma, New York. Did you? I did not know that. I learned something new today.
There is one. There is one. And I've seen, the anti-Semitism that's still coming from the right in 2024, despite all the efforts to quell that. And I'd like your opinion. Why did you?
Are you a Trump
literally
supporter? Are you a Trump supporter, by the way? Would you mind answering that question? Or you're gone. Okay, that's too bad. I wanted to ask him if he was a Trump supporter. I have a feeling that he was, but you see, that's what some of these people do. They're not smart enough to have a debate or a conversation. They're not smart enough to debate me. So what some of these people, and listen, this has been going on. I've been on the radio for 20 years. This has been going on for years with me. When you have a MAGA, and not somebody like David, who I have a good conversation with for 30 minutes and we don't agree on everything, but to many of these MAGAs, they can't make their point. So what they do is they try to insult me because they're not smart enough to have a conversation with me. Now, some are, to be very fair, some are, and we have great conversations. I have people on all the time as guests that disagree with me. But unfortunately, some of the people that call in that are MAGA supporters, that are, as Hillary Clinton would call, deplorables, they're not capable of having a civil conversation with me and debate me on an issue. And this is proof of that. And I'm glad this is happening because we can prove to people that many of these MAGA supporters don't have the wherewithal or the brain, the lack of intelligence to actually have a conversation. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to James. James is next.
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind, James?
All right. So, well, thank you for taking my call. I want to say I do actually. I guess you could. I'm a conservative, we'll say, but I actually do enjoy your content. Like from the approach how you just will, debate with anyone. But anyways, I want to ask you, as far as the Capitol security on January 6th.
Yes, sir.
Was that not? Isn't the Speaker of the House responsible for that?
Sure. So I think that's a very fair question to ask. So it's interesting you asked that because Nancy Pelosi video was put out, I think it was like a few days ago, where she's showing some regrets and that she did at least take some responsibility in the video, and that there should have been more Capitol Police there that day before, which she is admitting. Now, if you're talking, and by the way, I would agree with that. I think she could take some responsibility in that. Now, if you're talking about when the events would happen, here's what I would say to that, sir, and then you could tell me whether you agree with me or not. For 5 hours, Donald Trump sat on his ass in the White House and he did nothing. He was begged to put out a video to stop the violence. The First Lady was begged to put out a video. She declined. For 5.5 hours, Donald Trump did absolutely nothing. So I think it's fair to say, if you want to put a little bit of responsibility on Nancy Pelosi for not having the Capitol, police ready to go, or maybe not having enough Capitol Police there, which I think could be a fair statement to make. I think you also have to put a lot of responsibility on the man who was the commander in chief at the time, who literally did nothing for 5 hours. Is that fair?
I actually will agree with you on that, and I'll tell you why. If this was a planned coup, right?
Right.
Like this is something that you're not gonna accept failure. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's one thing I have a hard time with accepting on January 6th. Sure, the damage of property, the attacking of the police officers, absolutely. Right. I agree with you on that.
Yep.
I support law enforcement.
Sure.
I'm ex-military myself.
Thank you for your service.
But well, thank you. I mean, my point is, I believe that both sides are responsible somewhat. I mean,
Okay,
Ray
so
has
let me ask
no
you
FBI.
let me ask you a question, because you said both sides are responsible. If Donald Trump isn't the president of the United States, let me ask it a different way. If Trump doesn't say that the election was stolen and it was rigged and Joe Biden rigged the election, does January 6th happen?
Probably not. I would have.
I would say
have
probably not also. I think that's a very fair answer. Probably not. Now, you can criticize Nancy Pelosi. Maybe, there should have been more Capitol Police officers there. But come on, dude, make no mistake about it. The reason why they were there, because they listened to their cult leader, Donald Trump, continually say the election was stolen. Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. They tried to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election. And I do appreciate your call, sir. I think it's a fair question that you asked, and I tried to answer it to the best of my ability. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next on PTL. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Paul. What's on your mind?
Two things. I think that we're normalizing the fact that Donald Trump raped a woman and was found guilty of it. We just seem to normalize that. And I think it's great that you have people from opposing views. But the reality is that guy is supporting somebody that raped a woman in a dressing booth.
Correct.
And he seems fine with that. I agree with you. We need to have different points of view, but there's no two points of view on that. Like, we're talking trading policy, lower taxes, lower gas prices. But yeah, he forced himself on a woman in a dressing booth. I don't know how I don't know how we're normalizing that, because am I wrong that we are to some extent doing that?
I think some people are. You're not. I'm not. I don't normalize it. I talk about it every day.
I'm not saying you.
Yeah,
I'm saying in general. We're talking about policy.
I agree. Anybody, especially the evangelical right, anybody who would normalize somebody sexually abusing a woman, at least found liable for it, the judge characterized it as rape, and anybody that would normalize a 34-count felon, it's despicable, and they are complicit, and that's why I call it a cult. And I had so many people on the far right that are so upset with me because I compared the rally the other day to a Klan rally, not because I think everybody's a racist, but because I think everybody is a part of a cult. This is a cult. It is a Donald Trump cult. And they can get angry because I could care less. And it's interesting because there were some people at the rally who recognized me and they said I shouldn't be there. I had multiple run-ins with people. You shouldn't be here. You trash Donald Trump. It's interesting because they want to talk about freedom of speech, in this case, in a public park, not a private area, but it's only freedom of speech if they agree with it, right? If they disagree with it, then all of a sudden freedom of speech goes out the window. They are the biggest hypocrites in the world.
Right. The second thing I want to say was, and I'm a 49ers fan and an A's fan. Unfortunately, I'm an A's fan, so that is what it is. But, and we've had like Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. The only person that I want to sign my jersey and put on a frame is Colin Kaepernick, because he did something. He put himself out there. He stood up for other people.
Right.
He didn't do it for selfish reasons, and he took the consequences for that.
Yeah.
And he never did violence.
Right.
He peacefully protested, but right-wing evangelicals that beat police officers because they believed a lie, somehow they're patriots, but Colin Kaepernick never gets to play football again. Please explain to me how that makes any sense.
I'll take it even a step further. So when it's Mr. Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, that's
God.
I thought he's a despicable bigot, but that's all of a sudden freedom of speech and he can say what he wants. But if a guy like Colin Kaepernick, who, by the way, I haven't always defended, I have my issues with him, but I don't have an issue with him taking a knee. All of a sudden, they're sons of bitches, right? According to these people on the far right, you're an SOB if you decide to take a knee and peacefully protest. But all of a sudden, with Butker, it's freedom of speech. Let him say whatever he wants. Again, they are the biggest hypocrites in the world, the evangelical, the far right MAGA supporters.
Yeah.
Sad, my man.
It is. I hope that at some point, and on a different phone call, it would be good to have. I'd like to see a show that you do where a lot of people that I know that happen to be Democrats, they're not happy with either option. There has to be a way for us to fix this two-party system and have a third or fourth option where they can all go, and it's not about who can raise more money from dark money. Does that make sense? Would you ever do that?
Absolutely, and I think that's something I'll certainly be open to doing. We do have the elections tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The former Nevada Republican chair Amy Tarkanian's going to be joining us in studio tomorrow, so we're certainly going to talk about that. Listen, this is a woman who used to be a big, staunch Donald Trump supporter. There is no way she's voting for Donald Trump this time around, so I certainly want to pick her brain a little bit. But listen, this is the era that we live in, where I show up to a Trump rally the other day, millions and millions of views on social media. And it's interesting because these same people on the far right that are so triggered by me showing up and having freedom of speech to say what I want to say, the snowflakes, these are the same people who attack those on the far left and call them snowflakes. Do you see how many people I triggered on social media because of my opinions and what I said? And I actually had the balls to go out there, but it just, I'm with you. They call those on the far left liberals and snowflakes. But yet, look at all of them crying on social media because somebody disagrees with them and is anti-Donald Trump. I must have Trump derangement syndrome. Let me be clear. All those people out there that are saying I have Trump derangement syndrome, they have TFS, Trump fellatio syndrome. Very clear. Paul, it's good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate the phone call, Paul. Thank you very much. Have a good one, my friend. I love that guy. 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Phone calls are jammed, but we got to take a break here in a couple minutes. Do I have enough time to squeeze in one more phone call? Let's go to Ed. Ed is next up on PTL. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Ed. What's on your mind?
I'm doing great. I just want to say I love your show, man.
Well, thank you.
Doing really good. Just had a quick question. I just want to know, how do you feel about...
Hold on 1 second, Ed. Pot him down for 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Ed, okay. I'm going to pause here for a moment because I have reservations. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry, Ed.
Brian?
I needed to pause there for a second. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
No worries. Hey, I was just wondering, you got the last name Shapiro.
Okay, so I was right. It's so easy to spot out these people. So simple. And I have a very good producer. That's a guy who calls into a show, who doesn't know how to have a conversation. He's there by his phone trying to make a prank phone call, but make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, these are MAGA supporters. And I knew it. I could tell right from his voice from the get-go that he was a coward who calls into a radio show, and he probably disagrees with everything that I say, but he's not smart enough to have a debate. He's not smart enough to have a conversation. And I knew it. I gave him a chance, but I knew it. Now, it is interesting because there are MAGA supporters out there and Trump supporters out there that have the guts to call into this show. And we've had some of them who call into this show that are willing to have a debate, that are willing to have a discussion. But what does it say about someone that gets so triggered and so angry about what I do here that they take time out of their day and use their little Trump fingers to call into the show and just try to come up with a one-liner or some sort of insult and fail miserably? The insult is on you people. You're not smart enough to have a debate with me. You're not smart enough to have a conversation with me. Go ahead and vote for your rapist. Go ahead and vote for your 34-count felon. And go ahead, sit your unemployed ass in front of your radio, laptop, telephone. Go ahead and try to get me to live inside your head rent-free every day, that you would take time out of your day to call into this show to attempt to try to insult me. Thank you for the call, sir. You failed miserably. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have someone running for office here in the great city of Nevada. Also, I would say she is and this being, Pride Month and all the attacks on the gay community and the transgender community, she's an openly transgender woman. Her name is Eva Chase, and she's going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. No veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media, or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusuf Zai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
My name is Kola Akimbade. I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas. As mayor, we will offset the off-season by diversifying our economy, bringing technology, high-paying jobs, and strengthening our entertainment industry. In order to tackle this issue of homelessness, we need new money because the budget will never be enough. Therefore, we will legalize prostitution and tax money will flow. Today, go to our website, Kola, K-O-L-A, kolaformayor.com, and my phone number, 725-263-2660. Support our campaign and donate today. Again, kolaformayor.com at 725-263-2660. My name is Kola Akimbade, and I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got the former Nevada Republican Chair, Amy Canyon, going to be joining us in the studio tomorrow. Join me at Jackson Bar and Grill. It's my favorite gaming bar in town. Today's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, just show your cam card. You get $50 in slot play. I was playing out there yesterday. What a great staff and just great people. Jackson Bar and Grill located at Fleming Jones. I'm telling you, you're going to have a great lunch. I have listeners that hit me up on social media that check out, even those from out of town, and they love it. All good. Check out Jackson Bar and Grill. Tell them located at Fleming Jones. So, lady joining us in the studio right now is in a primary election. The voting closes tonight at 7 p.m. So I would imagine she must be a little nervous, but that's a good thing. She's running for Assembly, Nevada State District 16. You.
Hi, Brian. It's been a good day, and I'm glad to be here.
A little nervous? Are you a little nervous?
A little.
I think that's normal. I think everybody's going through that. Before we get to the elections here, what was your first reaction to what you found guilty?
I believe that the U.S. justice system is working as it should be. Now, I don't have an opinion whether he was guilty or not guilty. I wasn't on that jury. However, if he was found guilty, I abide by the results, and no one is above the law. And I believe that Joe Biden and Jill Biden show incredible restraint, responsibility to the country, not whining and crying like somebody, because No. And as it turned out, I think whether he was guilty or not guilty, he had his day in court. And that's how the U.S. justice system is supposed to work.
I agree with you. Isn't it, a loving father, of course, said he will not pardon. And also, respected the jury's decision. Obviously, Hunter Biden said he's just, but even Hunter Biden, forget about that. Donald Trump attacked repeatedly attacked the judge broke probably a dozen more gag orders, attacking jury members, assuming that they're all Democrats, touching the justice system. This is one of many fundamental differences to me between Democrats and Republicans. And you have a Republican judge that resided in this country for 5 years. I didn't hear Joe Biden that, like I said, they define between Joe Biden and the way Joe Biden and family put out a written statement, got into his car, and Joe Biden's wife was in the courtroom, and it was the part of this trial, and I commend them for that. And I feel some sorrow for Hunter Biden that go through with his addiction, and I take that very, very seriously after losing my sister. And I just find it so telling and so interesting that they're trying to spin it, right? The Republicans are trying to spin it in a way that they think is favorable for them. Oh, this was just nothing here to see, ladies and gentlemen. When for the last month, all I've heard them say is that he's going to be found not guilty. There's black people on the jury.
Right.
It's the two-tier justice system. Now, all of a sudden, he's found guilty, and they're moving the goalpost again, right?
Exactly. In fact, I heard some of the comments today when I was watching MSNBC News. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas said that, well, it was fine that Hunter Biden was found guilty, but we need to know about the Biden crime family.
Right.
Come on. Come on.
Absurd. I mean, if they had anything on Joe Biden, we would know about it. But now, how long have they been?
Yes.
How long have they been investigating Joe Biden? Look, this is a guy who has in Hunter Biden that has had his demons. We know that he did some illegal things, and we know that he suffered from addiction, and it seems like he's doing a lot better now. Do I think he deserves to go to jail? Probably not. If they give him like a 6-month sentence or a 3-month sentence, so be it. So be it. He'll get through it. And he's got a family now, and his life has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And we'll have to wait and see how this thing plays out. But again, the Biden family has shown, and I'm not surprised, nothing but class during this, even today, in the worst possible moment where your son is now convicted, a convicted felon, he's convicted. And Joe Biden, again, showed nothing but class when all Donald Trump does on a daily basis is play the victim card. Eva, since today is the primary elections,
yes,
do you have faith in our election system? That do you have faith in people going to the voter box and people voting either for you or not for you? Do you have faith in our system?
Yes, I believe, especially with our attorney general, which I got to meet a few days ago.
He was in studio here.
Yeah, I think his name is
Ron Ford.
Ron Ford.
Yep.
And I was very impressed with him. And he has protected our elections, especially the integrity of them, very well. And I am in complete agreement, no matter how it turns out tonight, either myself or if my opponent wins, I will accept the results because that's part of running for office. And our election systems in Nevada are some of the most secure in the country.
I agree with you, and we'll have to wait and see what happens today. There are certainly some important primary elections in the great state of Nevada today. And as you mentioned a little bit off the air, yeah, everyone does their primaries at different times throughout the country. It's not all on one night like what's going to happen in November with the presidential election. How do you think? I mean, we're now just a few weeks out, even less than that, right? Just a couple weeks out from the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and between Joe Biden, I almost said Hunter Biden, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And I think it's probably the most anticipated, and it might be the most watched presidential debate history of this country. What do you think we're going to see?
Well, this debate kind of reminds me, but it has higher stakes.
Right.
But if you look at our nation's history, the 1960 debate between Kennedy and Nixon, Kennedy was cool as a cucumber, and Nixon was sweating like he was sweating like he had just been running 10 miles. And he showed nervousness, and he did not look good. And that helped Kennedy in that election. But now we are facing something much more serious. And I mentioned this in my campaign. As a transgender, fully transitioned woman and a U.S. Air Force veteran, I want to protect our democracy. And our democracy is at stake because I think Joe Biden is going to come with a grade A performance and prove to the American people that he is the rightful person to vote for president in November. And I think Donald Trump is going to have a meltdown. And I'd like to see the odds of that here in Vegas in the casinos. We have odds on everything else. Let's see some odds if Trump melts down in that debate, because I think he will.
What I think is going to happen is what's similar to what happened in the State of the Union address, where all the Republicans, not all of them, but a lot of the MAGAs were like, oh, he's not going to get through this 90-minute speech. He's going to stumble and bumble, which he didn't, by the way. And then they move the goalpost once again, and they say, oh, he must have been on drugs.
Right.
It's exactly what's going to happen in this debate. I think Joe Biden's going to do just fine. I don't know if someone's going to win or lose the debate, but I think Joe Biden's going to be prepared just because of what's up here, his understanding of history. I think it also helps him tremendously that the microphones are going to be turned off when people are not allowed to speak. I would have been worried if the microphones were allowed to be on. I think that's very important.
Yes.
And I think Joe Biden will do just fine.
Yes.
And I think that's all he needs to do. He doesn't have to win the debate. He doesn't have to crush Trump. He just has to prove to some of the people that are still on the fence, the American people that think maybe he's too old or still unfit maybe for the job. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to go just fine for him. So let me ask you this here, because we're running out of time here. Why should people vote for you today? If they're still considering to vote for you, the polls are open here in Las Vegas for another 5 hours. Why should people vote for Eva Chase for Nevada District 16?
The reason is I offer a fresh, new alternative to my opponent, two-time incumbent Cynthia Gonzalez. And I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 things that distinguish her between me. First of all, I am the public school candidate. Last year, she voted for $480 million of public money to go to charter schools and baseball stadiums. And Nevada is 48th out of 50 states in public school efficiency. Clark County is the 5th largest school district in the country and the 2nd worst. 90% of the students in our state go to public school. Now, why didn't that public money go to public schools? Because she wanted to go to charter schools. Public money goes to public schools, not baseball stadiums. And so I'm for strengthening our public schools. Another difference between her and I when it comes to safe gun reform. Yes, she likes to have background checks, and she wants to have red flag laws, but she will not ban military assault weapons. I will. I will push for a ban of AR-15s and military assault weapons in our state of Nevada. I live very near where the shooting occurred back about, was it 17 or 18? Over there by Mandalay Bay?
Correct, yep.
All right. I live very near there.
You're right behind there, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I heard the shots. And that was very close for me. Fortunately, I was in bed asleep. My point I'm making is the AR-15, 1 out of every gun sold in the U.S. is an AR-15. And it is the gun of choice by mass shooters. And there was a mass shooting in Massachusetts just 2 days ago, 200 high school students, and 10 were injured.
Right.
Fortunately, I don't think there's any fatalities.
Yeah.
But that's just a couple of things that distinguish her and me. And being a trans woman and a veteran, which she is not a trans woman and she's not a veteran.
Yeah.
That gives me an insight to what it's like to be and live as a trans woman every day, something she can't experience.
And I appreciate the fact that you serve this country.
Yes.
Anybody who serves this country honorably, I have a great amount of respect for. And obviously, we agree on the AR-15 stuff and the gun stuff. We certainly agree on that. Well, Eva, I wish you the best of luck today. There's certainly a number of people that I'm going to be pulling for, and you are definitely one of them. And I support your candidacy. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here over the next, 10 hours or so, right? Hopefully we'll get some results by the end of the night, you think? Hopefully.
We should have them by 10, 11
Good.
o'clock tonight. And I just want to close with this.
Yep.
I want to thank you and your staff
Of course.
here at this wonderful radio station,
My pleasure.
KSHP. And I look at it this way. You folks are my bread and butter.
Well, it's my pleasure.
And I'm going to do the best I can
Yeah.
to, in fact, I've done the best I can in this campaign.
You absolutely have, and it's been my pleasure to have you in studio and to interview you, Eva Chase. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I also want to just give out my website for people out there that want to check out a little bit more about what I do, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. And tomorrow in studio, we have, to kind of review the elections tonight, Amy Tarkanian, the former Nevada Republican chair, is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Nevada is ranked 48 of 50 states in public school efficiency. Hi, I am Progressive Democrat Eva Olivia Chase, the public school candidate. Cynthia Gonzalez voted for $480 million of public money for charter schools and baseball stadiums. Public money for public schools. Vote and support Eva Olivia Chase.